Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, my name is Steve. So it's been a while since I posted my last video about 2 weeks ago, and that's because my father was quite sick at the time, and in fact last week my father he actually passed away. So I wasn't really sure if I should post a video about what's happened or how I'm doing, mainly because like thinking and talking about him, it does make me quite emotional and sad. But at the same time, I thought it'd be the right thing for me to let you know what's happened briefly, because a lot of you guys wished my father well and prayed for him when I posted my last video about visiting New Zealand and buying him a disability car. And also, like, I know I'll have ups and downs with my emotions, and I didn't want to like fake and pretend that I'm okay when I make my future videos. So yeah, last Tuesday on 4th of May, my father passed away. He was suffering from a condition called cerebellar degeneration. So cerebellum is the part of the brain that controls all the voluntary movement. So anytime when we are using our muscles to walk or run or doing anything, our cerebellum is what controls that movement. For him, for some reason, that part of the brain, it just started to degenerate and shrink over time. And we found out his illness about 7 years ago when he was on a hike with my mom, and he basically kept falling down. So my mom thought he was just being like really clumsy, so she just kind of told him off and scolded him. But when they came back from the trip, they noticed that he was doing that a lot actually. And he also wasn't able to drive properly and stay in the lane. And we realized it was quite serious when one day he crashed his car in a parking lot. And it was quite surprising for us because the car he drove was his pride and joy. He had always been driving like these cheap second-hand Japanese cars all his life, and when he turned 60, I think he finally saved up enough money to buy like a 5-year-old Mercedes hatchback, and he really loved and took good care of that car, like washing it every week, and he would never let my mom drive it. And of all places, in a parking lot, he almost totaled the car. So we knew something was wrong with him at that point and took him to the hospital, and the doctors did a CT scan and basically confirmed the diagnosis at that point. So his health gradually got worse from that point, but he was still able to walk around and travel and stuff. He just had to use a walking stick. In fact, he visited Singapore during that time, and he went to Sentosa, the zoo, and did all the touristy stuff without any problem. But about 2 years ago, things started to get worse really fast for some reason, to the point where he eventually became like wheelchair bound, and soon after that he was completely bedridden, and he wasn't able to eat or speak or go to the toilet, and my mom had to take care of him pretty much 24/7 all the time. And about 3 months ago, he got really sick from having pneumonia. So with this condition, what happens is that his esophagus, which is the tube that connects your mouth to the stomach, that's actually a muscle that pushes all the food down to the stomach. So that muscle began to fail, and he ended up having some food going into his lungs, which got infected. So he was very, very sick, and in fact the doctors told me at that point that he probably had weeks and maybe days of life left, which is the reason why I went back. But unfortunately, after being on antibiotics for about 5 days, he was able to recover completely, and when I got out of quarantine in New Zealand, he actually seemed quite okay. So I thought he would kind of stay that way at least until I go back in July, but about 2-3 weeks ago, he had the same thing again. Same thing, same pneumonia, infection in his lungs. And this time he was on stronger dose of antibiotics for 7 days, but he just wasn't able to recover at all. And he pretty much became almost unconscious. He was sleeping the whole day, not really responding. So on Monday last week, the doctors told my mom that she had to choose whether they want to take his life support off or bring him to a hospice and all. So even at that point, we still thought we had a few weeks of time left with him. And on Tuesday, I wake up and I have like 14 missed calls from my mom and sister. And when I saw that, I really freaked out, and I was very shaken and anxious, and I was praying that he didn't pass away while I was asleep. And I called my mom straight away, and she told me that things really got worse overnight, and they had to take him off the life support. And they just basically gave him lots of morphine so that when he left us, he wouldn't be in much pain and be suffering at the end. So yeah, when I heard that, I was very upset initially and angry because of all this COVID situation. You know, I couldn't even be there at my father's deathbed. So I was quite upset and sad and you know, just really confused and lost. And about 1 hour after that, I got another call from my mom, and this time I could hear in the background my mom and dad's friends like praying and crying and asking him not to go. And I just knew that he was very close to leaving us. And a few moments after that, I was on the speakerphone and he took his last breath and he passed away. For me, it was the first time in my life where someone close to me had actually died. So I was really sad and emotional and yeah, and again, pretty upset that I couldn't be there. So after that, we had his funeral and I was able to watch that through online streaming. And just yesterday, we heard that his body was cremated and ready to be buried. And that's going to happen on Friday, which is tomorrow. So that's basically what's happened to me over the last 2 weeks for me. Personally, I like to think that my father's illness and death was one of the biggest gifts that he's given me, and that's because it taught me how short and vulnerable our lives can be. And even before his death, when this illness struck him, you know, he had all these plans to retire and enjoy life, you know, like most people in our parents' age. He worked really, really hard and he had postponed all the happiness to being after his retirement. You know, he had all these plans to learn how to play golf, travel around New Zealand in that nice car that he waited such a long time to buy, and also like travel to Korea, visit family, visit Singapore, all these things. But he wasn't able to do hardly any of it in the end. So he taught me that every day is important, and if I want to do something that makes me happy, that I'm passionate about, I should do it today, now, because honestly, that's all we have, right? All we have is this moment today, and tomorrow is never guaranteed. And in the same way, I think leaving Singapore have taught me a lot about life as well. It wasn't until that I fully decided that I would leave Singapore and accept that my life here will come to an end that I began to really appreciate all the little things that I always took for granted. And every day in Singapore now, it feels so valuable for me, and I don't want to waste any time, you know, browsing through my phone or just staying at home. I want to go out and explore and experience and absorb as much of Singapore as I can. And seeing my father laying in that little coffin at his funeral, it really hit me hard. It really helped me realize and accept that one day I'm going to be laying in a coffin myself. My life on earth will come to an end one day as well. And when I think about that, you know, it doesn't matter whether I'm in Singapore or New Zealand. Every day that I wake up to is a gift, and I feel like I should use that time to follow my passion and my dreams, which is part of the reason why I'm going back to New Zealand, and I will be sharing more about that once I get there with you as well. I'm not gonna ramble on for much longer because I know I'm gonna get emotional and cry. So I will be going back to doing my SG bucket list videos again. So if you have any good ideas, please do let me know in the comment section. And I also want to thank all of you who have checked in with me on how I'm doing and sent me messages online. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I will see you in my next video. Bye bye. 갔다 올게요. 아빠 좀 갔다 올게요. 유연 올게요.
나랑 피터랑 이렇게 왔다 갔다 하면서
어?
내려갔다
유연 올게요.
건강하게 계세요.
그러니까 아빠도 네?
또 찍는 거야?
기분 좋게 계시면 안 찍고 오네요.
그럼 아이 오빠랑 똑같아. 맨날 쳐다보면 가지고 그래 나빠.
가시고.
갔다가 또 자기 전화하고